Welcome to the very first anime review on the Blockbusters Show. Today we'll be talking about the 2018 classic Hiroshiro Girl Drop.
Is she in there? Oh!
I'm Pipimi, and I've got some news. The Earth is under attack.
Damn you, stupid thunder!
Do you even have any idea what you've done?
Well, do you? So, you like this one? Isn't the red great?
Yeah, it'll camouflage the blood well.
How about Scorpion?
I am your true god.
I'm Pipimi, and I've got some news. The Earth is under attack.
Ugh, damn you, stupid thunder!
Do you even have any idea what you've done?
Well, do you? So, do you like this one? Isn't the red great?
Yeah, it'll camouflage the blood well.
How about Scorpion?
I am your true god.
Pop Team Epic premieres June 30th at midnight.
But for real, guys, for the first ever anime review on the Blockbusters Show, we will be talking about Pop Team Epic. Anime that is so balls to the wall insane, I had to write a shitload of notes in preparation for this video. The year is 2014, and Pop Team Epic started as an online manga. It was basically just a series of 4-panel comic strips, and eventually it landed in the lap of the Japanese online magazine Take Shobo. And with this new widespread audience, it started to gain more and more notoriety, and it started to pick up steam as a series of memes and a series of reaction images. And forward 8 years from 2014 to 2018, and Pop Team Epic finally got its own anime on television. And right now, we currently have 2 seasons of the anime, and in between those 2 seasons was a TV movie, a TV special, whatever you want to call it. It was basically just a double-length episode of the show. Anime was put out by a studio called King Records, and specifically King Records and Take Shobo will be brought up when we talk about the season 1 finale, because that actually plays a very crucial part in that. If you want a description as to any kind of plot that goes with this show, simply put, it's a sketch comedy show. It's one of these skit comedy shows where sometimes you have skits that are more story-based and usually go on for like 6, 7, 8 minutes, and then a majority of the time, most of the sketches go on for like a minute, sometimes even 15 to 20 seconds. The main driving force of the series are the 2 main characters of Popuko and Pipimi. 2 14-year-old Japanese schoolgirls. They're very best friends, they're inseparable, and well, each skit consists of them either doing incredibly mundane things and having really weird, wacky reactions, or sometimes they're placed into extravagant, larger-than-life situations, and their roles within these skits varies. Sometimes they're just regular, everyday girls, other times they're protagonists who have to go up against a greater evil, other times they're the antagonists and they're trying to kill somebody. I'll try to talk a little bit more about individual skits later, but for now, I feel it'd be interesting to talk about how they marketed the first season, and they did it in the most Pop Team Epic way possible. Basically what they did was they trolled everyone. They convinced people that an actual anime was coming out, and it was called Hiroshiro Girl Drop. There were trailers for it, there were clips for it, and it looked like a legitimate anime with a story and everything. And just 2 days before the first episode was to air, they said that their Twitter account was hacked by the team behind Pop Team Epic, as a minor pull of the curtain to let people know, oh, this is what it's actually going to be. But that didn't stop people from thinking that Hiroshiro Girl Drop was a real thing, because if you still go to the Crunchyroll upload of the first episode of Pop Team Epic, there are a shitload of people in the comments who are either genuinely confused or really pissed off that it was one elaborate Andy Kaufman-style troll on everybody. Because the first episode starts with this big Hiroshiro Girl Drop opening. You know, you have a cold open like you typically expect from anime or any given TV show. Then you get the theme song, and then after all that build-up, all that anticipation, it then eases you into what Pop Team Epic truly is.
Hey, are you upset? I am not upset. Hey, are you upset? I am not upset. I am not.
And the best part of it is, they end every episode in season 1 with teasers for what the next Hiroshiro Girl Drop episode's gonna be. And there are plenty of people who have compiled these ending teasers into like a full-fledged story, and it actually does make up a kind of interesting storyline about, you know, this guy and girl, they end up falling in love, but then it turns out that she was a ghost the whole time, and you know, the only way for her to come back to life is if he erases all of his memories of her so that she can live again. They did a similar thing in the second season, except I don't think they ended every episode with teasers, since they don't really do that with a lot of live action Japanese shows. Sometimes they do, but not all the time. They did it with this Kamen Rider parody show called Endless Love. They teased it at the end of the first season, and I actually like that they carried it into the second season. And they got the Japanese idol, actor, musician, Shota Aoi, who basically plays a fictionalized version of himself, as he goes up against this organization called the Time Patrol, who are trying to eradicate alternate universes and try to keep the timeline simple with the one pure and only timeline, and so every other alternate reality must be eradicated from existence. I'll try to talk a little bit more about it when we actually get to specific skits and specific things that I liked about each of the seasons individually. But for now, I'm going to try and go over the notes and talk about some of the reoccurring sketches from Season 1 and a little bit of Season 2. I have Pop Team Cooking, which is basically Popuko and Pipimi doing a cooking show. Music videos, which are done in stop motion with felt puppets, which are super adorable. There are a ton of these music video segments, and they're all really well done. But my absolute favorite one has to be Let's Pop Together, which is just such a blatant parody of Earth, Wind & Fire's Let's Groove Tonight. There's Japan Mignon, which is basically just Popuko and Pipimi going through France and trying to experience French culture and all.
Il suffit juste de faire les bons gestes.
Ah, en effet, ils sont plutôt doués avec les signes.
I like the fact that they specifically gave this to one of the animators who was French, and in grand Pop Team Epic fashion, they basically told the guy, yeah, don't read the mangas, and if you do, if it doesn't make sense to you, that's totally fine. Just whatever you do your own sketches. And that's the other thing. They do this with the first season and the second season, but they actually have multiple studios working on each of the skits, which is why each of the skits have different animation styles. You have the stop motion felt puppet ones, you have the main ones, which are done in traditional 2D animation. You got skits like Japan Mignon and some of the other ones, which are done in a 3D animated style, but they try to look like 2D style. And you get to the one that everyone either loves or hates. These are basically shit posts in their purest form. The entire show feels like a shit post, but these ones in particular are definitely shit posts, with intentionally bad voice acting and intentionally bad animation. Some people love these sketches, some people absolutely hate them. They're kind of a mixed bag to me. Sometimes I feel if they go on too long, they start to get really uncomfortable and unfunny, but when they're funny, I laughed at how bad some of these were, because that's clearly what they're going for. Like the Australia one I thought was great.
A panda! So cute! A koala! So cute! A panda! Seen it. A koala! Seen it. A Tasmanian tiger! So cute! A wombat! So cute! A dingo! Don't care. A wallaby! So cute! A wombat! Seen it. A Tasmanian devil! Seen it. Nuh-uh. We haven't seen a Tasmanian devil yet. Oops, my bad!
The one with the alien that thinks it's a cat, that one's great.
Get out, you! What makes you think you can steal the cat's bed? Go back to your home! I'm a cat. Meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Go back to your home!
Season 2 also had a couple of reoccurring segments, and just like with some of these other sketches, they tried to go for different animation styles. My personal favorite one of the bunch has to be Pop Team Epic B-Side, where they basically try to redo some of the sketches from previous Pop Team Epic segments, but they try to do them in a more like stylized, serious, kind of high school anime aesthetic. It's really charming.
Popuko Pipimi B-Side. えいえい怒った？怒ってないよ。えいえい 怒った？怒ってないよ。
Another key thing to bring up about the show is the runtime of it, because, okay, it typically follows a 22-23 minute format, but because it was originally intended to be a web series with an 11-minute runtime, and then eventually when it came to doing it for TV, they couldn't do that. They decided to just take the episodes and then replicate them, but instead of having female voice actors, you have the skits done with male voice actors. And typically with a lot of the time with male voice actors, you get the sometime with the female ones, but a lot of the times with the male voice actors, whenever there's something different with the dialogue, a lot of the time it's improv.
Here's where it gets long. That's what she said. Not only the neck, but the awkward interaction, too.
Oh, so long.
It's like the opening of that detective show from the 90s.
And they should fill in the blank, you know, like with the producer's name or something.
Maybe they'll add captions in post. For when it airs.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's just another thing that gives the show its identity, because Popuko and Pipimi don't really have central voice actors. I mean, yeah, sometimes they reuse voice actors from episode to episode, but unlike certain characters like SpongeBob, where, oh, you know who he is because of his voice, Popuko and Pipimi jump from voice actor to voice actor, and that's something that I think is really special to this show. To describe this show itself, I would say there's not really a show like it out there, but there are a couple of shows it was reminding me of. Not really in terms of the way the show is written or specific comedy styling, but there was a couple of minor things that made me kind of flash back to other shows. Like the way the show is structured with sketches that either go on for a long time, that are very story heavy, to skits that are just really quick and short. Reminded me of a couple of other sketch comedy shows I used to watch growing up. Like Monty Python did that, Mr. Show did that. Those were shows that clearly ran on very similar surrealist, out there kind of comedy. Robot Chicken also comes to mind because some of the skits are very heavy on parodies of pop culture. Two main characters of Popuko and Pipimi themselves kind of reminded me of shows like Beavis and Butthead. Much like Beavis and Butthead before them, a lot of the comedy comes from how other people react to them. Like, they're just kind of off in their own little worlds, doing their own things, and most of the time it annoys other people, it makes people really pissed off or uncomfortable and confused. Another show is reminding me of, just mainly because you have two main characters running around acting like goblins and annoying and confusing everybody. It was definitely giving me flashbacks to that web series that Chris and Zach made called Hellbenders.
I want raspberry!
What the fuck is wrong with you idiots?
Okay, bye!
I remember that was everywhere when I was in middle school. Shout out if you remember Hellbenders. I find it very appropriate because the English dub of this show was aired on Toonami, which obviously segues into Adult Swim. But it definitely reminds me of a lot of the anti-humor or surrealist humor that you would see on Adult Swim. I didn't watch a lot of those kind of shows. The only shows that I really kept up with on Adult Swim after a certain period of time was Aqua Teen Hunger Force. This show is very reminiscent of Eric Andre Show because of how unapologetically weird the show is. Like, it just does whatever it wants, and just like how Eric Andre Show feels like it's the televised late night show version of a shitpost or a YouTube poop.
Hey, Eric, look at me. Bitch.
That's pretty much the best way I can describe Pop Team Epic. It's pretty much a YouTube poop or a shitpost if it were an anime series. Another thing I really appreciate about this show, as well as the manga that inspired it, it feels like it's made by someone who actually has a good grasp of fourth wall humor and internet culture and meme humor. I've talked about this before when I've reviewed movies like The Internship and Fun Size and Zoolander 2 and Diary of a Wimpy Kid Long Haul. There are these movies and TV shows as well that try to tap into internet culture, and they try to have characters talk about like internet memes and stuff like that, and it just feels like the most out of touch shit I've ever seen in my life. Oh, hey, you guys know Trollface and Why You Know? Yeah, those were some classic Reddit memes from 2007. Stuff like Pop Team Epic and other shows like it, like Smiling Friends, for instance, they're made by people who clearly have a good tenuous grasp on the internet and what is often considered funny on the internet. And whenever they reference internet memes or internet culture, it feels like it's made by people who actually know what they're talking about, versus movies and shows, like I mentioned earlier, that feel like they're trying too hard to be cool and hip with kids. Nowadays, whenever people try and fail to do fourth wall humor, it feels like they're trying way too hard to copy what made movies and shows by Phil Lord and Chris Miller funny, but those guys are typically really good at doing fourth wall humor. At worst, nowadays, you get something like Velma, which is trying to do the whole like, oh, you see what we did there? We took a popular trope that's in shows you see on Netflix and Hulu and all these popular streaming services, but we're pointing it out, we're being self-aware. That means that it's automatically funny. Me personally, I really like the fourth wall humor that's in this show. Key examples I can think of are in the second episode of the first season. There's a skit where Popuko and Pipimi are thrust into an anime that's not even finished. And then halfway through the skit, it cuts over to the voice actors in the recording studio chastising the producer because he gave them scripts that basically told them to just ad-lib and they hate it.
What is this script? It's just a bunch of notes. Ad-lib here, ad-lib there.
Nobody told me I would have to do impressions.
That's not cool.
We thought it'd be funny.
It seemed quiet
You idiots
on your
think
end.
this is funny? You guys weren't laughing. All I heard was a couple of snickers.
Another great example is from the first episode of the second season, where they actually have a couple of skits, like back to back to back, openly making fun of people who criticize the show, as well as their fan base.
それではファンの皆さんに一言。おー、カス、おらうえ、カス、カス、おらうえ。ただいま大変不適切な発言がございました。ご覧いただいている皆様に心よりお悔やみ申し上げます。
The brainstorming session begin. How can Pop Team Epic be funny? If it was funny, it wouldn't be Pop Team Epic. Right. Who's next?
We've received some letters. How did Pop Team Epic get a second season when it is the shittiest series of all time?
Well, that's easy. It's because the characters are so cute, you just want to die.
Them constantly poking fun at people saying that Pop Team Epic is the best, worst anime or the worst series to ever exist kind of reminds me of when Filthy Frank would call himself the Ed Wood of YouTube and that he was the worst show on the internet.
Wait, what? Y'all should know by now, this is the worst show on the internet.
It's definitely giving me flashbacks to that, and honestly, I fucking love when they do jokes like that in this show. It's really funny. I'm gonna go down a couple of parodies that I had written down, because there's a lot of different parodies of a ton of different stuff in this show. Pokemon, My Neighbor Totoro,
You there, little traveler girl. A nice kid like you wouldn't be planning to steal that umbrella, would you?
Skyrim. There's one skit that involves a bobsledding race, and not only do they reference Cool Runnings, there's a guy in there that's supposed to be a blatant parody of Dick Dastardly and his sidekick Muttley from Wacky Races.
If my plan works, then they'll be toast!
You lit it back there, so I picked it up for you.
You imbecile! That's a bomb! My explosive movie trap!
There's one where they parody Steamboat Willie, the first ever Mickey Mouse cartoon, which is really funny because they not only reference that, but they actually reference something else on top of it. I'm assuming because they didn't want to get copyright claimed by Disney, or just because they wanted to reference this meme, they replaced the footage with actual live-action footage of some Norwegian boat or something like that, and that's in reference to the nice boat meme. Speaking of Mickey Mouse, they actually do have a skit where they have Popko do an impression of Mickey Mouse.
Now, an impression of Mickey Mouse.
What, do you want to die? Gosh! Oh! Stop that! Hey! What? I said fucking stop it now! Oh! Hi there! Fucking quit it!
Whenever I watch that skit, I immediately think of when Corone tried doing an impression of Mickey Mouse and Goofy.
I am a Mickey Mouse! Yay!
I am a Goofy.
Just gotta say, can you think of anyone on the internet who would possibly go out of their way to make fun of Disney? Because I can't think of one. I don't know. I just can't think of a single YouTuber who would go out of their way to make fun of Disney. Can't think of one. Going back to the self-aware humor, I wanted to talk about the season finales. Season 1's finale has this grand overarching story that was established only once in the season 1 premiere, and they finally tie it back around that there's some kind of evil organization that's out to get Popuko and Pipimi, and it turns out that it's King Records, the studio that made the anime.
If it had only been broadcast with the script that we wrote, we'd achieve hegemony.
Next season, we'll have our bestseller. But first, we must figure out how to deal with those
Rest assured.
Not only that, after they have an entire mob sent after them to try and kill them, and of course Popuko and Pipimi stop them right away, they first think that the hit was put out by Take Shobo, the guys that made the manga. So I thought that was a really good way of trying to tie it all back together, and it was a really fucking good way to end the first season.
Are you upset?
We are not upset!
As for the second season, it was that Kamen Rider parody that I talked about earlier, but I absolutely love how it's tied back around to Pop Team Epic, because just when you think that it's not really Pop Team Epic related, aside from a couple of skits here and there, like a Bob Epic Team bit and a music video, I love how it ends, because the season 2 finale ends with this big epic showdown between the leader of the Time Patrol and his creatures, the things that are going around killing people in other realities, called a Time Noise, versus Shota Aoi and a couple of other main characters, and their army to go up against the villains is all the alternate reality Popkos and Pipimis that we've seen all throughout the second season, and they come in to help. And like I said earlier, it's a brilliant way of ending the season. It's really good to see that a show that knows that it's just random skit comedy actually try to have a story. It's actually really well done. No particular order, my favorite skits from the first season are some of the longer story-based ones. There's lots of great ones from the first season that are shorter. Like the Marilyn Monroe skit and a couple of short ones like that, the one where Popuko and Pipimi go fishing. Some of my favorite ones include the Yakuza skit, the parody anime called Don't Call Me Sis. Skit that was basically a parody of The Shining.
This is creepy.
There's a skit that I just have listed as Idol World Domination.
So tell us, is this the utopia you envisioned?
Yeah, I guess so.
And lastly, for season 1, I love the murder mystery skit.
What have you got to share with me? Forensics? Huh?
So what was the murder weapon?
You're a really smart guy.
Well, some kind of blunt object.
It only took one blow! Get these two gummies out of my crime scene!
As for season 2, easily my favorite song moment from season 2 is, I just have it listed as Identity Song. I think there's an actual name for it, but it's the song that's in the first episode of the season. And as for what I have jotted down, I loved the Bug 3D game skit. Dora the Explorer parody.
おじさんのミルク絞ってみるかい?
Skit, which is basically a parody of those YouTube comments that say "Come to Brazil."
ブラジル行っちゃおう。アミーゴ。岡山県に地球の裏側出現。ブラジリアンパークはショートのハイランドでノリノリな休日を過ごしちゃおう。
PUBG skit.
チートダメ。絶対。
And the Epic Gamer skit.
ヒーロー PU の大会で見たことある動き。
There's also an Among Us parody in this season, but I just gotta say, if you're able to do sketches parodying PUBG and Fortnite and Twitch streamers in general, and actually make it funny, you did something right. Photoshop skit. The prank gone wrong skit, mainly because it was just taking me back to 2015 when all those fucking awful prank channels were running rampant.
今日はね、寝起きどっくり仕掛けていきたいと思います。歯ブラシとかね、ペロペロペロってしたいと思います。もし全裸で寝てたら YouTube にアップしたいと思います。
僕のことが好きなら最初からそう言ってくれればいいのに。
I only vaguely remember this one, but I have listed here Popuko on drugs.
イェイイェイイェイ自信ガーゴーならない。
A skit called Everything is a Sham.
ビビックナイトショー。今夜のゲストは地球さんです。ちょっと待って。じゃあ我が足ついてるこの大地は気がついてしまったのね。この世のすべてはまがいもの。
This one's been doing rounds on YouTube quite a lot recently. The haiku skit.
うるせえよ。うるせえよ。うるせえよ。
Didn't know how to label this one, so I just called it Joey ASMR cameo. Basically, it's a skit where they end up torturing a guy for doing a bad ASMR, and I just have it listed as Joey because I swear to God, he looks like Joey the Anime Man on YouTube.
おやすみった言ってほしい。
腹立つ。殺して仰せのままに。
Which is funny because Joey was actually in the first season of Pop Team Epic. And lastly, I absolutely love the fact that they were actually able to get to say and feature Chocobo from Final Fantasy in a skit. Now all we need is a skit where they get Hatsune Miku to show up. Overall, Pop Team Epic, it's definitely not a show for everyone, and the people that made it clearly know that. If you're into internet culture and internet memes, I highly recommend checking the show out because it pretty much has everything you're looking for. It has that random, quick-paced kind of humor. It's definitely tailor-made for a younger demographic. I like the different animation styles. I like that the show doesn't really have one specific thing and it's able to do a variety of different stuff. Especially in the second season, there's a lot of them trying new things and doing different animation styles and different parodies of different styles, which is really good. And of course, I just love the two main characters, Popuko and Pipimi. While they have different voices every episode, they're essentially written to be almost exactly the same. Whether they're supposed to be protagonists or antagonists or just simple everyday high school girls just living mundane lives together and, you know, doing wacky random things. They're such endearing characters, much like Beavis and Butthead. They're just entertaining main characters to follow. So that does it for the first ever anime review on the Blockbusters Show. Tune in next month. We'll be doing probably 2 or 3 movie reviews. We're gonna take a break from the anime stuff, but I do have another anime review lined up. It'll come out this year, I guarantee it. But yeah, until next time, guys, I'm Adam Sykes of the Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
ご視聴ありがとうございました。スマホのみんなは画面下のボタンから、PC のみんなはこちらからチャンネル登録おねさーす。はい、みんな登録してくれてありがとう。そして
登録しなかったそこのお前、今からお前んち行くからな。